The stars were quiet that night over New Bizin. The colony world held 12 million souls, most of them sleeping in their beds. Children dreamed of tomorrow. Parents rested after long days of work. Ships floated peacefully in orbit, their crews watching the endless dark of space. Captain Quan Tai Wu stood on the bridge of his destroyer, the Indomitable. He was 32 years old, born on this very world. Through the viewport, he could see the lights of Hanam City, the capital. His mother lived there. His younger sister, too. "Quiet night," said his first officer, a woman named Li Subin. She was checking the sensor readings for the 100th time. Tai Wu nodded. Too quiet, maybe. He did not know how right he was. 300 light years away, the Velen hegemony had made a decision. The Velen were old. Their empire had existed for 12,000 years. They ruled 2,000 worlds. They had crushed 100 species and conquered 1,000 more. Humans were new to the stars. They had only 17 systems. The Velen did not fear them. They did not respect them. They simply wanted their minerals. When humans refused to give up 3 border systems, the Velen High Command chose to teach them a lesson. Not a war, just a lesson. One world would burn. The humans would learn fear. Then they would obey. The Velen fleet arrived without warning. Tai Wu saw the sensor alert at the same moment Li Subin did. Her face went pale. 64 ships, she whispered. Velen warships. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. That's impossible, Tai Wu said. But the sensors did not lie. The Velen gave no warning. They sent no message. They simply opened fire. The first shots hit the orbital stations. Tai Wu watched in horror as 3 platforms exploded in silence. 2,000 people died in those first seconds. Then the Velen turned their weapons toward the planet below. "Get us out of here," Tai Wu shouted. "Sir, we can't leave them. We're 1 destroyer against 64 warships. We stay, we die, and no one knows what happened here." His voice broke. "Record everything. We have to tell Earth." The Indomitable turned and ran. Behind them, the bombardment began. The Velen used kinetic weapons. Massive rods of metal dropped from orbit, striking the surface at terrible speeds. Each impact was like a nuclear bomb. Hanam City vanished in the first wave. 3 million people. Gone in moments. Tai Wu watched through the rear sensors. He watched his home burn. He watched the world where he learned to walk, where he fell in love for the first time, where his mother had held him as a child. He watched it all turn to fire and ash. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 2.3 million people were dead. The Velen did not land troops. They did not take prisoners. They simply destroyed and left. 1 day later, the Indomitable reached Earth. Admiral Park Doan was 61 years old. He had served in the fleet for 40 years. He had seen battles. He had lost friends. But nothing prepared him for the recordings from New Bizan. He sat in silence as the images played. Cities burning. People running with nowhere to go. The sky filled with falling death. When it ended, his hands were shaking. "The Velen ambassador is waiting," said his aide. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Jasu. She was young, barely 30, but her eyes were hard. She had watched the recordings too. "Send him in." The Velen ambassador was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes that held no warmth. He walked into the Admiral's office like he owned it. "Admiral," the ambassador said, "I trust you have seen our message. Your people have 30 days to surrender the border systems. Refuse and more worlds will learn the lesson of New Bizin." Dohan said nothing for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very soft. "Leave." The ambassador blinked. "I beg your pardon?" "Leave my office. Leave this station. Leave human space. You have 1 hour. You cannot speak to me this way. I represent the hegemony. You represent murderers. Doan stood. He was not tall, but in that moment, he seemed to fill the room. You killed 2.3 million people. Children, families, people who never raised a weapon against you. And now you come here and threaten more? The ambassador's lips curled. Your species is young. You do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong take. The weak give. This is the way of things. Then we will teach you a new way. The ambassador laughed. You? Teach us? We have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. You have been in space for 3 centuries. You are nothing. Get out. The ambassador left, still laughing. Jisoo watched him go. Sir, what do we do? Dohan looked at her. Then he looked at the screen, still showing the frozen image of New Bizen burning. I'm going to the council, he said. They wanted us afraid. They wanted us to beg. They have no idea what they have done. The emergency session of the United Human Council lasted 4 hours. Representatives from every human world attended. They watched the recordings from New Bizen. Some wept. Some raged. Some sat in terrible silence. When the vote came, it was unanimous. War. That night, Admiral Park Dohan received his orders. He read them twice. Then he called Jisoo to his office. We are going to war, he said. She nodded. Good. It will not be easy. They are old. They are powerful. They have 2,000 worlds. And we have something they forgot about. What is that? Jisoo looked at him, and in her eyes was something cold and bright. We have 2.3 million reasons to never stop fighting. Doan smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had seen too much and decided to answer with everything he had. Then let us begin. 3 months had passed since New Bizen burned. The Velen hegemony expected surrender. They expected fear. They expected humans to come crawling, begging for mercy. They received none of these things. Instead, something strange was happening across human space. Something the Velen had never seen in 12,000 years of conquest on Earth. Factories that once made cars now made weapons. On Mars, mining operations doubled their output. On every colony world, from the oldest to the newest, the same transformation took place. Farms produced food for soldiers. Schools taught engineering and medicine. Everyone worked. Everyone contributed. Everyone remembered New Bu. Sin. Dr. Big Soyan stood in her laboratory on Luna, Earth's moon. She was 45 years old, small and tired-looking, with gray streaks in her black hair. Before the war, she had studied energy systems. Now she led Project Hammer, the most secret weapons program in human history. Show me, she said. Her assistant, a young man named Yu Junho, activated the display. A Velen shield generator appeared, captured from a destroyed enemy ship. We have figured it out, Junho said. Their shields work by creating a field of charged particles that absorbs incoming energy. Soin nodded. And we made it better. He showed her the modified design. Soin studied it for a long moment. Then she smiled. 30% more efficient than theirs? 34% actually. Soin laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in 3 months. They attacked our ships. They killed our people. And they gave us their technology to study. She shook her head. Send this to the fleet yards. Every ship gets the new shields. On the other side of human space, General Moon Hyunsik was training soldiers. He was 60 years old, built like a mountain, with a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He had fought in the Martian Rebellion 20 years ago. He knew what war meant, but this war would be different. Again, he shouted. The recruits ran the obstacle course for the 10th time. They were exhausted. Some were bleeding. None of them stopped. A Velen observer would have been confused. The hegemony trained soldiers to fight in formations, to follow orders, to hold positions. Moon trained his soldiers to adapt, to think, to survive anything. The Velen fight like machines, Moon told his officers. They follow rules. They expect their enemies to follow rules. We will not give them that comfort. Sir, one officer asked, what rules will we follow? Moon looked at him with cold eyes. Win. That is the only rule. Win and bring our people home. Far from human space, in the heart of Velen territory, a woman named Shin Yoonji was doing something very dangerous. She was spying. Yoonji was small and quiet, with a forgettable face. Before the war, she had worked as a translator on a trading station. She spoke 7 languages, including Velen. When the call for volunteers came, she answered. Now she lived among the enemy, pretending to be a refugee from a conquered species. The Velen never looked twice at her. To them, she was just another insignificant alien. They told her everything. In a coded message to Earth. She sent the most important intelligence of the war. The Velen have not mobilized their full fleet. They still think this is a small conflict. They are not taking us seriously. Admiral Park Dawn read her message 3 times. Then he smiled that same cold smile. They think we are weak, he told Jisoo. They think this will be easy. Will we correct them, sir? Soon. The correction came at Sejong Station. Sejong was a mining colony, rich in rare metals. The Velen sent a fleet of 30 ships, expecting another easy massacre. They arrived to find 80 human warships waiting. The Velen commander was named Torvin. He had served the hegemony for 200 years. He had crushed a dozen species. He had never lost a battle. He lost this one. The human ships moved in ways Torvin had never seen. They did not form neat lines. They did not follow predictable patterns. They swarmed like insects, striking from all angles, never staying still long enough to be targeted. What are they doing? Torvin demanded. His tactical officer had no answer. They are not following standard combat doctrine, Commander. They are not following any doctrine. Then how do we fight them? The answer came in fire and death. Torvin's fleet was destroyed in 4 hours. 22 Velen ships vanished in nuclear light. 8 more were captured. Only 2 escaped. Before his flagship exploded, Torvin sent one final message home. They learn too fast. They adapt too quickly. We have made a terrible mistake. On the Velen homeworld, the High Command received the news in silence. This is impossible, said one commander. They are primitives. They should not be able to fight like this. And yet, they do, said another. The eldest among them, a female named Kirith, spoke slowly. I have studied human history. Their records, their wars, what does that matter? They fight among themselves constantly. It is proof of their weakness. Kirith shook her head. No, it is proof of their strength. They have spent their entire existence at war. With their environment. With each other. With anything that threatens them. Every disaster made them stronger. Every conflict taught them more. What are you saying? I am saying we did not attack a primitive species. Kirith's voice was heavy with dread. We attacked a species that has been training for this moment for 10,000 years. We just did not realize it until now. Back on Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul, Captain Kwon Tai-woo sat alone. He had been promoted since New Bizen. He had been given a new ship, a new crew. Everyone called him a hero. He did not feel like a hero. He felt like a man who would run while his world burned. A knock came at his door. He opened it to find an old woman standing there. She was small and frail, with white hair and eyes that had seen too much. Captain Kwon? She asked. Yes? My name is Chai Misuk. My grandson was on New Bizen. My daughter. My son-in-law. Her voice trembled, but did not break. I came to thank you. Thank me. Tai Wu's voice cracked. I ran. I left them all to die. You survived. Mizuk took his hand. Hers was warm despite her age. You brought the recordings. You showed the galaxy what they did. Because of you, we fight. Because of you, my grandson will be remembered. Tai Wu felt tears on his cheeks. I cannot save them, no, but you can avenge them. Mizuk squeezed his hand. Go, right, win. And when you stand over the ashes of their empire, remember my grandson's name. It was Chai Wujin. He was 7 years old. Tai Wu looked at her for a long moment. Then he straightened. I will remember, he said. I will make them all remember. He reported for duty the next morning. The war was only beginning. 8 months after New Bizen, the war came to Velen space. For 12,000 years, no enemy had crossed the borders of the hegemony. No ship had threatened their worlds. No soldier had walked on their soil. The Velen believed they were untouchable. They believed wrong. Admiral Park Dawn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul. Around him, 200 human warships waited in the darkness between stars. Status report, he said. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Jisu checked her displays. All ships ready, Admiral. The enemy does not know we are here. Good. Doan looked at the star map. Ahead lay Catherine, a Velen fortress world. It had never fallen. 8,000 years of history said it could not fall. History was about to change. Begin the attack. The Velen defenders of Catherine expected an assault from space. That was how wars were fought. Fleets met fleets. Ships battled ships. The winner took the planet. The humans did not do this. Instead, 12 small ships appeared on the edge of the system. The Velen fleet moved to intercept them. As they did, 100 more ships appeared behind them, striking at the orbital defense platforms. When the Velen turned back, the first 12 ships attacked their rear. The Velen commander screamed orders. His fleet tried to regroup. But every time they moved, the humans moved faster. Every time they formed a line, the humans broke it. Every time they tried to fight the way they had always fought, the humans fought differently. What is this madness? The commander demanded. His tactical officer shook her head. They call it unpredictability, sir. They change tactics constantly. We cannot anticipate them. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Velen fleet was shattered. Human marines landed on Catherine 3 days later. The fortress world fell in 6 days. Admiral Doan sent a simple message to Earth. Catherine is ours. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Far from the front lines, a different kind of warfare was being fought. Commodore Han Minjae commanded the Ghost Fleet, a group of fast destroyers that specialized in chaos. Minjae was 50 years old, thin and wiry, with a face that always seemed to be smiling at a private joke. He had spent 20 years as a merchant captain before the war. He knew the shipping lanes, the supply routes, the hidden paths between stars. Now he used that knowledge to destroy the Velen from within. There, he said, pointing at a holographic map. That convoy carries fuel for the entire 3rd Velen battle group. Without it, they cannot fight. His first officer frowned. Sir, the convoy is defended by 20 warships. We have 8. Then we will have to be clever. They were clever. The Ghost Fleet used a technique that Velen scientists said was impossible. Microjumps, they called it. Tiny faster than light hops that let them appear, fire, and vanish before the enemy could react. Impossible, the Velen said. The humans did it anyway. Minjae's ships appeared in the middle of the convoy like ghosts. They fired their weapons and jumped away before the Velen could respond. Then they appeared again, somewhere else. And again. And again. The Velen escorts chased them frantically. that they were always too slow. By the time the battle ended, the convoy was in ruins, and Minge's fleet had not lost a single ship. "The third Velen battle group will have to retreat," he told his crew. "Without fuel, they cannot fight." "That's a victory without a battle, sir." Minge smiled. "The best kind." On the ground, different heroes were being made. Corporal Onari was 24 years old. She had joined the army 3 days after New Bizen. Her older brother had been visiting friends there when the bombardment came. She never found his body. Now, she led a squad of 12 soldiers on a planet called Verath. They were supposed to hold a mountain pass until reinforcements arrived. The intelligence said they would face 100 enemy soldiers. The intelligence was wrong. "How many?" Nari asked her scout. 10,000, Corporal." "Maybe more." Nari looked at the pass. It was narrow. Steep walls on both sides. Only one way through. Then we hold. For 3 days, they held. The Velen attacked in waves. They sent soldiers by the hundreds. They sent vehicles. They sent everything they had. And every time, they met the same answer. Human soldiers who would not break. Nari's squad used every trick they knew. Explosives hidden in the rocks. Snipers moving from position to position. Traps that turned the narrow pass into a killing field. When they ran out of ammunition, they used captured Velen weapons. When those ran out, they used knives. When a soldier fell, the others moved to cover the gap. On the 3rd day, reinforcements finally arrived. General Moonhyun Sik himself led them. He found the pass filled with Velen dead, and Nari's soldiers still standing. "How many did you lose?" Moon asked. "2, sir." Nari's voice was empty. She had not slept in 70 hours. Park and Kim. They held the left flank until the end. Moon looked at the pass. At the thousands of Velen bodies. At the 12 humans who had stopped an army. "Corporal Onari," he said, "you are promoted to sergeant. And when this war is over, every soldier in the human military will learn your name." Nari shook her head. "I don't want fame, sir. I want victory. I want them to remember what they did to New Bizen. They will remember." In the archives of the Velen hegemony, a historian named Kethos was researching the enemy. She had spent 200 years studying the rise and fall of species. She knew the patterns. She knew how civilizations grew and died. What she found in the human records terrified her. "Look at this," she told the High Command. Their history. Every century, another war. Another disaster. Another crisis that should have destroyed them. "Weakness," said a commander. No. Kethos pulled up more records. Strength. Every time they fell, they got back up. Every time something tried to destroy them, they adapted. They changed. They survived. What is your point? They were never primitive. Kethos's voice trembled. They were being forged. Every war, every famine, every plague. It was all training. 10,000 years of training for the moment when something truly threatened them. And now? Now they have found a purpose. Kethos looked at the commanders with ancient, fearful eyes. "We gave them a reason to unite. We gave them an enemy to hate. We took a species that spent its entire existence fighting itself and gave them a common cause. What should we do?" Kethos had no answer. None of them did. On a dozen worlds, human soldiers advanced. In 100 star systems, human ships hunted. In the hearts of billions of humans, the same fire burned. New Bizen would be avenged. The Velen hegemony, which had stood for 12,000 years, had begun to crack. 14 months after New Bizen, the Velen hegemony was dying. Premier Cho Yuna stood in her office on Earth, watching the war reports scroll across her screens. 50 Velen worlds had fallen. Their fleets were scattered. Their supply lines were cut. An empire that had ruled for 12,000 years was breaking apart. But Yuna knew the war was not just about the Velen. It was about what came after. She was 53 years old, tall and composed, with silver streaking her black hair. Before the war, she had been a diplomat. She understood that military victory meant nothing if it led to endless conflict. "We need to be smart about this," she told her council. "We can crush the Velen, but if we simply become the new tyrants, we will fight forever. What do you suggest?" asked one advisor, Liberation. She explained her plan. The Velen hegemony ruled not just Velen worlds, but hundreds of conquered species. Some had been enslaved for thousands of years. All of them hated their masters. "We do not want to rule them," Yuna said. "We want to free them. And we want them to remember who freed them." Ambassador Kang Dong-hyun was sent across the galaxy with a message. He was 40 years old, patient and clever, with a gift for making friends. He traveled to 12 different species under Velen rule. "Your chains are not our quarrel," he told each of them. "We fight the hegemony, not you. Join us if you wish. Stay neutral if you prefer. But know this, when we win, you will be free." Some did not believe him. The galaxy had never seen a species fight for liberation rather than conquest. It seemed impossible, but then the humans proved it. On the planet Terrath, a species called the Moor had been slaves for 3,000 years. When human forces arrived, the Moor expected to simply change masters. Instead, the human commander, a woman named Colonel Wang Jian, walked into the largest slave camp unarmed. "You are free," she told the Moor leaders. "We ask nothing in return. We will leave soldiers to protect you until you can protect yourselves. But we do not own you. No one owns you." The Moor elders stared at her. "Why? What do you want?" Jian thought of New Bizen, of the 2.3 million dead, of the promise humanity had made. "We want the hegemony to end," she said simply. "And we want the galaxy to know that there is a different way." Word spread. Species that had suffered under Velen rule for centuries began to hope. Some provided intelligence. Some opened their ports to human ships. Some rose up against their Velen masters. The hegemony was crumbling from within. Fleet. Admiral Ru Sejin led the assault on the Velen's primary shipyards. She was 48 years old, quiet and deadly, with a reputation for winning impossible battles. The shipyards orbited 3 stars at the heart of Velen space. They produced most of the hegemony's warships. Without them, the Velen could not rebuild their fleet. Sejin brought 300 ships. The Velen had 500 defending the yards. "Admiral, we are outnumbered," her first officer warned. "Numbers do not matter." Sejin studied the tactical display. "Only will." The battle lasted 11 hours. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. Ships died by the dozens. Nuclear fire lit the darkness between stars. Heroes were made and lost in moments. But slowly, inevitably, the humans advanced. Sejin used everything she had learned in 14 months of war. Her ships moved in patterns the Velen could not predict. Her commanders made decisions without waiting for orders. Her crews fought with a fury that the Velen could not match. When the battle ended, 60% of the Velen shipyards were burning. Their production capacity was crippled. The war was effectively won. "Send word to Earth," Sejin said. "The yards are destroyed. The hegemony cannot recover." The Velen Emperor received the news in silence. His name was Vareth III. His family had ruled the hegemony for 4,000 years. Now he watched it all fall apart. "We must negotiate," said his chief advisor. "We can offer reparations. Return to pre-war borders. Recognize human territory. Will they accept?" "We must try." The offer was sent to Earth. Premier Cho Yuna read it carefully. Then she sent her response. You killed 2.3 million of our people to teach us fear. The lesson we learned was different. We will accept nothing less than the complete dissolution of the hegemony and trials for those responsible for New Bizen. The Emperor read her words. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he turned to his advisors. Prepare the judgment. The judgment was a weapon that had not been used in 10,000 years. Planet killers. Devices capable of destroying entire worlds. Your Majesty, the advisor said, his voice trembling, the judgment is forbidden. The Galactic Conventions. I do not care about conventions. The Emperor's composure finally broke. They are destroying everything we built. Everything our ancestors created. I will not let it end this way. The order went out in secret. 5 judgment weapons were prepared. Their targets, Earth, Mars, Luna, and 2 major colony worlds. But the Emperor had forgotten about Shin Yunji. The spy intercepted the orders. She did not have time to send a coded message. Instead, she stole a small ship and flew directly toward human space. Valen patrols caught her near the border. They destroyed her ship. She died alone in the cold darkness between stars. But before she died, she sent one last transmission. Judgment weapons activated? Targets, Earth system and colonies. You have 72 hours. The message reached Earth 6 hours later. Admiral Park Dohan raided 3 times. Find those weapons, he ordered. Find them and destroy them. Every available ship was sent hunting. Intelligence operatives worked without sleep. Scientists analyzed every piece of data they had. 50 hours later, Commodore Han Minje's Ghost Fleet found the first judgment weapon. It was hidden in an asteroid field, being transported toward its target. Minje's ship surrounded it. The Velen crew refused to surrender. So Minje destroyed them and the weapon together. The other 4 weapons were found over the next 18 hours. 4 battles. 4 victories. Each weapon was destroyed before it could be used. The leaders who had authorized the judgment were not so lucky. When word of their plan reached other Velen commanders, many refused to support them. Some surrendered to human forces. Some turned against their own government. The Emperor was arrested by his own guards. Admiral Dohan received the news quietly. It is almost over, he said. Jisoo nodded. What happens now? Now we finish what they started. Dohan looked at the star maps, at the territory humanity had taken, at the empire they had shattered. And we show the galaxy that we are more than just warriors. On a quiet ship orbiting a dead world, a small ceremony was held for Shin Yunji. Her body was never recovered, but her name was inscribed on a memorial. She had died alone, far from home, to save billions. Captain Quan Taiwu spoke at the ceremony. He had known her briefly before the war. She did not fight with weapons, he said. She fought with courage, with sacrifice, with the understanding that some things are more important than survival. He paused. We will remember her. And when this war ends, we will make sure her death meant something. The war was almost over, but the hardest part was yet to come. 2 years after New Bizen, the war ended. The signing ceremony took place on a space station between human and Velen territory. Representatives from 300 species watched as the Velen hegemony was officially dissolved. 12,000 years of empire ended with a signature on a document. Premier Cho Yuna represented humanity. She stood tall and calm, watching as the new Velen leader signed the agreement. It is done, the Velen said. His name was Korath, a military commander who had surrendered rather than use forbidden weapons. My people accept these terms. Your people will remain free, Yuna said. But you will not conquer again. You will not threaten again. If you do, we will return. We understand. And they did. The Velen who had once ruled the galaxy now understood something they had forgotten. There were species you could conquer, species you could negotiate with, and species you should leave alone. Humanity was the third kind. The trials began 3 months later. The leaders responsible for New Bizin, for the attempted use of judgment weapons, for thousands of years of conquest and enslavement, faced justice. Some expected executions. Blood for blood. An eye for an eye. But Premier Yuna had a different idea. We will not become what we destroyed, she told the court. We will give them fair trials. We will present evidence. And we will let the galaxy judge. The trials lasted 6 months. Witnesses testified. Evidence was shown. The galaxy watched as crime after crime was revealed. In the end, the guilty were sentenced to life imprisonment. Not death. Humanity wanted justice, not revenge. There was a difference. Dr. Beek Soyin returned to her laboratory after the war. But she did not build weapons anymore. We have spent 2 years learning how to destroy, she told her team. Now we learn how to build. Human engineers spread across the former hegemony. They helped rebuild shattered worlds. They shared technology freely. They taught species who had been slaves for centuries how to stand on their own. Why do you help us? Asked a Moore engineer working beside Soyin on a water purification system. Soyin thought about the question. Because we know what it is like to suffer, to lose everything, to have to rebuild from nothing. But we were your enemies. No, the hegemony was our enemy. You were victims, like the people of New Bizin. Soyin smiled. Besides, the galaxy is better when people help each other. We learned that the hard way. Onari, the hero of the mountain pass, became a trainer. She taught soldiers from a dozen species how to fight the human way. Her students struggled. Human tactics required creativity, flexibility, the willingness to make decisions without orders. I do not understand, said one alien student. How do you fight without a plan? We have plans, Nari said. But we also have something else. What? The ability to throw the plan away when it stops working. She taught them to think, to adapt, to survive. And slowly, they began to understand. You fight like you expect to lose, another student observed. Always preparing for the worst. Nari nodded. We learned a long time ago that the worst can happen. So we prepare for it. And when it comes, we do not break. We bend, we adapt, and we win. Premier Cho Yuna addressed the newly formed Galactic Assembly on the first anniversary of the peace. 300 species sent representatives. Many of them had been enemies. Many had been slaves. Now they sat together as equals. Humanity did not seek this war, Yuna said. We did not want this power. But we will not apologize for defending ourselves. We will not apologize for winning. She paused, looking across the vast assembly. What we offer now is partnership, not dominion. We have seen what empires do. We have seen the suffering they cause. We will not become another hegemony. We will be something new. What do you want from us? Asked the delegate. Trade, cooperation, peace. Learn from our example, or repeat the Valen's mistake. Yuna's voice hardened. But know this, we remember New Bizin. We will always remember. And if anyone tries to wound us again, they will learn the same lesson the Velen learned. The assembly was silent. Then, slowly delegates began to stand. One by one, species by species, until every representative was on their feet. Applause filled the hall. Admiral Park Don did not attend the assembly. He had retired after the war, returning to Earth for the first time in 2 years. He sat in a garden in Bizin, the city that shared its name with the destroyed colony. Cherry blossoms fell around him like pink snow. It was spring, and the world was renewing itself. A familiar figure approached. Admiral Yoon Jizu, still in uniform, still serving. I thought I would find you here, she said, sitting beside him. The garden is peaceful, Do-hun said. After 2 years of war, I need peace. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jisoo asked the question that had haunted her since the fighting ended. Did we do the right thing? Do-hun considered. He thought of the battles, the deaths, the terrible choices he had made. We survived, he said finally. We protected our people. We freed others from tyranny. And we did not become monsters doing it. Is that enough? It has to be. Do-hun looked at the sky. Somewhere up there, ships still patrolled. Soldiers still stood watch. The peace was fragile. It might not last, but for now, it was peace. We showed the galaxy something, he continued. We showed them that you can fight without losing yourself. That you can win without becoming the enemy. That strength and mercy can exist together. Some species will not learn that lesson. Then we will teach them again. Do-hun smiled. It was not the cold smile of war. It was the tired smile of a man who had done what was necessary and could finally rest. But not today. Today, we rest. Today, we remember. On a distant world that had once been part of the hegemony, a Valen grandmother told her grandchild a story. Long ago, she said, our people ruled the stars. We were proud. We were powerful. We thought nothing could challenge us. What happened, grandmother? The old woman looked at the night sky, at the stars that had once belonged to her people. We found a species called humanity. They were young. They were small. They had only a few worlds. We thought they were weak. Were they weak? No, child. They were the strongest species we had ever met. Not because of their weapons, not because of their ships, but because of something else. What? The grandmother was quiet for a long moment. They would not give up. No matter what we did to them, they would not break. We killed millions of them. They united. We destroyed their cities. They built more. We tried to make them fear us. They made us fear them instead. How did the war end? They won. They destroyed our empire. But then they did something strange. Something we never expected. What? They helped us rebuild. They did not enslave us. They did not take revenge. They simply won, and then they stopped. The child thought about this. Why? Because that is who they are. The grandmother took her grandchild's hand. Remember this lesson, little one. There are some species you can conquer, some you can negotiate with, and some you must simply leave alone. Humanity is the third kind. Wound them once, and they will end your empire. But show them friendship, and they will cross the stars to help you. She looked up at the stars again, at the human ships that sometimes passed overhead, at the new order that was being built. They call themselves humanity. It means those who are human, but I think it means something more. What, grandmother? It means those who survive, those who adapt, those who never ever give up. The child looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were building, trading, exploring. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was changing, and it would never be the same again. In a small memorial on Earth, the names of the 2.3 million dead of New Bizen were inscribed in stone. Every year, on the anniversary of the attack, millions came to remember. Admiral Dawn came every year until he died. Sergeant Onari came whenever she could. Captain Kwan Taiwu never missed a single visit. And above the names, a simple inscription read, "They thought our sorrow made us weak. They learned that our sorrow made us strong. We will never forget. We will never forgive. But we will move forward." That is the human way. The war was over. The galaxy was at peace. And humanity, wounded once, had risen to become something greater than anyone had ever imagined. Not conquerors, not tyrants, just survivors. Just human.